When I will walk the earth again, the faithful among you shall receive your reward, to be set above all other mortals forever. As for the rest, the weak shall be winnowed, the timid shall be cast down, the mighty shall tremble at my feet and pray for pardon. Hey, what's going on, dudes? My name is MrRhexx, and we are back with some more Elder Scrolls Skyrim lore play. On the last episode, we finished, finally, after about 4 full episodes, we finally did the entirety of the Potema questline. So now that that's been resolved, today, we're going to be focusing on our next Daedric Lord. In this case, we are going to be doing Mehrunes Dagon. So indeed, we're going to be going into the Dawnstar Museum, where apparently an individual has opened a museum for the Mythic Dawn, an old sect of cultists that is essentially murdered the Emperor in Elder Scrolls Oblivion in the game before this one, and started the event that ended up being called the Oblivion Crises. Now, we'll talk about that in just a minute. Let's see about the discussion that's happening in front of us now.
Your ancestors wouldn't want this, Silus.
Why should I hide from it? This is my family's legacy.
It's the past. Dead oaths on dead lips. Let it stay there.
The museum is opening, Medina.
Oh no. What's happening?
I beg you, don't go into Silus's museum.
Who's Silus? What is this museum?
Silus comes from one of the oldest families in Dawnstar. They have a complicated history. Several of his ancestors belonged to the Mythic Dawn, the cult that almost destroyed Tamriel. His family's involvement was only found out well after the crisis had died down, but it still ruined their reputation. They were outcasts. And now Silus is back, and this museum to the Mythic Dawn is his way of trying to rebuild his family's pride. It's misguided.
I understand. He's proud of his family, but his family were a bunch of cultists that almost destroyed the world. I think it's understandable where this divide might be coming from. But could you explain who these people are?
Not a student of history, I see.
Nah, not even close.
It's for the best. They're a group that should be forgotten. The only thing you need to know is that they almost destroyed the world, and they were stopped a long time ago.
Okay.
That museum is a mistake.
Well, let's see what the other side has to say about this.
And here comes my first visitor. The Museum of the Mythic Dawn is open, friend.
What do you mean, a Museum of the Mythic Dawn?
Yes, my collection of artifacts from a group that toppled an empire. Why don't you come in? You can browse the displays and we can talk. I have a job you look perfect for.
Sounds good.
Let's talk inside.
So once again, the Mythic Dawn were the cultists that formed the main enemy in Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Elder Scrolls 4. They were essentially the catalyst, the ones that ended up summoning Mehrunes Dagon, the Daedric Lord of chaos and destruction, into the world. They were the reason these portals opened in the first place, and you know, many people, the world almost got destroyed. Like, a lot of people ended up losing their lives in this massive catastrophe, and the Mythic Dawn were essentially like the ones that, you know, made it happen with the help of course, Mehrunes Dagon. So let's see what kind of emblems this guy might have about these guys.
Talk to me when you're ready. The tapestries hung here and outside were found in hideouts, where members of the Mythic Dawn would meet and plot. The cult's greatest accomplishment was the assassination of the Septim Dynasty and the opening of the Oblivion Gates.
Indeed, these guys ended up murdering Emperor Uriel Septim VII and 2 of his sons, I believe, because one son ended up, no, 3 sons, and then the bastard son ended up escaping. And it seems like the tapestry indicates sort of like a rising sun, which indicates, of course, the title of the movement, the Mythic Dawn. And we'll explain what that dawn exactly is in just a second. Whenever we look at any of these cases, it's going to explain what's inside. I believe. He typically does that. Oh no, he's not doing it.
Ah, yes. That scabbard. Notice the insignia?
I do.
An Oblivion Gate. A key symbol of Mehrunes Dagon, the patron Daedra of the Mythic Dawn.
Interesting. I'm pretty sure that that symbol, that Daedric symbol right there in the middle of the scabbard, that's actually the Daedric letter for O. When using the Daedric script, which the idea was supposed, because it was used predominantly in the casing for Elder Scrolls Oblivion, but I'm pretty sure it was because it was supposed to be like O from Oblivion, and that's why it was used. But it does definitely look like a gate with, like, I guess like a person coming out of it.
That burned paper is all that remains of the fabled Mysterium Xarxes, the blasphemous book written by Mehrunes Dagon himself. It's said that Mankar Camoran used the book to open a portal to a paradise, where all his followers would live forever.
Now that book had a lot of, allegedly, a lot of secrets about the world, about the way things are, and it was given, specifically to this guy, Mankar Camoran, so that he would sort of usher this cult into bringing Mehrunes Dagon into the world. And there's a lot of really cool things about that book, because we don't really know what exactly was in the book. Of course, it is written, as you can see, this is a page from the book. It is written in a dialect that wouldn't allow us as players to be able to read. But what we got instead was we got 4 commentaries, which I believe we find here.
The commentaries on the Mysterium Xarxes were written by the Mythic Dawn cult leader, Mankar Camoran. He promised a paradise awaited his followers when they died, that they would be reborn by Mehrunes Dagon's side.
So these are essentially the ramblings of Mankar Camoran on his take on the Mysterium Xarxes. So it is sort of like literally the one, as players, this is what we get as far as like what could have possibly been on the Mysterium Xarxes. Now, there's a couple of things in those books that are actually very mind-blowing, and I just want to cover just some parts of it in this episode, because we're not going to do the entire quest line this episode. I just want to do a part of it, so I don't think the episode is going to be that long, but oh my god, there's some really weird things about Mankar Camoran and Mehrunes Dagon that are kind of mind-blowing, so do prepare yourself with some of the things that you might hear in this video, because boy oh boy, are we going to talk about some real weird shit. So there's this one line, this one interesting line that you can find if you go back to Elder Scrolls Oblivion. There's Mankar Camoran is like giving this speech, right, to his followers, the cult following, and there's one line in one of the many paragraphs that he speaks about where he talks about the reality of Tamriel. He basically says that Nirn, Tamriel, basically all of this. Okay, so before I go there, because it's kind of crazy. You might remember, we talked about it a few episodes ago, that, let me just go out actually to explain this. So this reality, this planet, the planet of course is called Nirn, and the planet and the constellations around it, like the sun and the moons and all that, this orb, this solar system, if you want to call it that, is situated inside of Oblivion. So all around the planet, we are actually surrounded by Oblivion, which is where the Daedric lords are in all the Daedric realms. And then outside of Oblivion, sort of like as another layer surrounding everything, that's where Aetherius is, which is where like heaven would be, that's where Sovngarde is, etc., etc. That's where like Magnus and all of the other gods are. So Mankar Camoran said that Nirn, this planet, this solar system, is actually a Daedric realm. And he said that this was originally the Daedric realm of I'm blanking on his name now, of Lorkhan. That this was the Daedric realm of Lorkhan, and that basically the Aedra that live here were the servants of Lorkhan in this Daedric realm, and they usurped him. They kind of fought against him and killed him and took over. But basically he explains that that's the reason why when you see Daedras, they are so incredibly powerful. And when you see Adric gods like, you know, Mara and Devela and all those, they don't seem powerful enough. You really can only interact with them through statues. You can't even, like, you don't even really converse with them, right? And basically Mankar Camoran explains that that's because they're not the true gods of this world. Like, they're interlopers. They were supposed to be servants of the actual god, of the Daedric god that was Lorcan. So they're basically not really who's supposed to be ruling this place, when in reality this is a Daedric realm, and that's why Daedras have so much power over Nirn. And now that's one take on this, right? Which is already pretty crazy, and we're gonna continue, but I just want to sort of get the quest and start moving my butt over through the quest.
Did you have any questions about the museum? Or would you rather talk business?
Why did you open this museum?
It's no secret that my family were once members of the Mythic Dawn. One of my forefathers was even chosen to assassinate Uriel Septim himself. We hid from our past for years, became tradesmen, people of coin and influence. But I realized that the Mythic Dawn's importance, our importance, to history cannot be denied. I'll see everyone in Tamriel remember that for a moment, we held the fate of the world in our hands, for good or ill.
So what is this Mythic Dawn cult?
They were worshippers of Mehrunes Dagon, the Daedric Lord of Destruction and Change. The Mythic Dawn killed Uriel Septim VII and his heirs, triggering the events that led to the Oblivion Crisis, when the Daedra invaded Tamriel. All that remains of the infamous cult, I've gathered in my museum.
So who is this guy?
Ah, an excellent question. Mehrunes Dagon is the Daedric Lord of Change, Destruction, and Ambition. Dagon's Mythic Dawn cult killed the Septim dynasty and opened the Oblivion gates into Tamriel. They called it the Oblivion Crisis.
So what about this job?
A little history first. After the Oblivion Crisis, a number of groups cropped up dedicated to wiping out the remnants of the Mythic Dawn. One of these groups found Mehrunes' Razor, the artifact of Dagon. They split it into 3 fragments and pledged to keep them apart forever. That was almost 150 years ago, and the pieces are still being kept by the descendants of that group, and they're right here, in Skyrim.
Well, we should get him.
At least 2 of the owners, Gunzel and Draskua, are dangerous marauders. And the 3rd owner, Jorgen, I only know he lives in Morthal. Here are my notes about them. I'll gladly pay you for getting the pieces any way you can. No questions asked.
There you go. So, I guess we can ask more about the Razor.
The Razor is Mehrunes Dagon's personal artifact. It has always heralded bloody change and carnage. It's held many names. Dagger of the Final Wounds, Bane of the Righteous, the Kingslayer.
Kingslayer.
The Mythic Dawn worshipped Dagon as a god. Having his razor would be invaluable to my collection.
Alright, so we're gonna go ahead and try and get this Razor for this guy.
Good luck finding the fragments.
No problemo. So what he's given us, he gave us a book, I believe. Let me see if I can find it. Keepers of the Razor. It basically talks about this organization that whose job was the extermination of the Mythic Dawn. Basically, after the end of Elder Scrolls Oblivion, you still had the Mythic Dawn cult sort of like scattered all around Oblivion, and then you basically formed these militant groups that were focused on the eradication of these cults. And one of them found somehow the dagger and then promised that they would keep it separated. And now we're supposed to, use this book in order to find these people, which really shouldn't be too much of a problem. Now, the interesting thing is that you have Mehrunes Dagon, right? Mehrunes Dagon, he's known, of course, as the Daedric Lord of Destruction and Change and Chaos and all these different things. What's interesting is a few things. So we're going to talk about Mehrunes Dagon in just a bit, but like, it's interesting to note, the possibility of Nirn being a Daedric realm. I like that it makes a lot of sense when you start to sort of look into some of the Daedric realms that we have seen before. When you talk about Clavicus Viles' realm, which is literally something very similar to this, of course. When you talk about how Aetherius is supposed to be and how much of a world of stasis, because like the reality of Elder Scrolls is always symbolized in these two diverging thoughts, which is stasis and chaos. And they always talk about, including on the Monomyth, which we talked about in the last episode, basically the Bible of Elder Scrolls, it talks about how humans and elves are, for all intents and purposes, creatures of change. They're creatures of chaos. Like, we're not... it's very difficult for a human or an elf to really understand the concept of stasis. The concept of things not necessarily changing. Like, that doesn't make any sense to a human. That's not how our brains are supposed to work. We are creatures of change. We're constantly changing things and destroying things and creating things, which is something more akin to chaos rather than necessarily just stasis. But what's interesting, and this is where things get really, really complicated, is when you start to delve deeper into the origin stories for Mehrunes Dagon. Let's go ahead and start gathering some of these fragments. The first fragment is actually comically easy to obtain. We're just gonna get that like real quick here. But essentially Vivec, who you might know as one of the demigods that form the trifecta of the tribunal, the rulers of old Morrowind. This guy is basically a demigod, right? Like he has a very similar form of omnipotence that you would find in most demigods in this world, or just gods for the most part. And his knowledge on topics, it's actually surreal. And he talks about many different topics, and let me see if I can find the book here. Help. If I do Vivec, I might be able to find... No, I think it's found on Morrowind, I think. Help. How would I look for this sermon? Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to find it. I don't think you can find the book in Skyrim. But I think the book is called 36 Lessons. 36 Lessons of Vivec, I think is what the book is called. And it's just a collection of sermons that Vivec sort of like was trying to give some of his priests. And in one of those sermons, he talks about this location, this place that we're going to call Lyg. That's spelled L-Y-G. Now, what this place is kind of another kind of like semi-mind-blowing thing. It's supposed to be like an imprint of this planet. Like when the world was being created, somehow the planet did something that kind of imprinted itself on the matrix of the creation. So it's kind of weird to explain because like there's really no easy wording for this, but essentially the idea is like if you play Dungeons and Dragons, if you know about Dungeons and Dragons lore, this might be the Feywild, right? Like this multiverse essentially kind of scenario where you have this planet and then you have a very similar, if not unique, imprint of this planet and this other alternate reality. That's kind of what Lyg is. In this case, though, it's not really like a pure physical place. It's not like a purely well-manifested location, but it does exist. And it is exactly kind of like Nirn, but a little bit different. And in this place, allegedly, one of the origin stories of Mehrunes Dagon says that he actually came from there. That this happened when the Magna G, the actual creators of this world, Magnus and all the other Edadas, they actually attempted to instill hope onto Lyg, onto the Oblivion Plains, because that hope is something that is not found. It's like a train of thought that you don't find a lot in the Oblivion Plains, and they try to plant that seed on this alternate reality, and that seed ended up sort of growing into Mehrunes Dagon.
The mill is my responsibility, and that's what I care about. That's all. Understand?
I'm looking for the pieces of Mehrunes' razor.
Don't know what you're talking about, stranger.
Well, really? Because Silus Vesuvius says otherwise.
I've heard of him. My father had suspicions about his connection to the Mythic Dawn. Guess they were true. I don't need this. My family wasted 8 generations keeping that razor safe from a dead cult. As far as I care, it can stay locked in my house.
Would you be willing to sell out your entire family's legacy for some gold?
Divines know the mill could use some new blades. All right. It's yours. Here's the keys. It's locked in the chest inside my house.
And this is how evil wins.
Until next
Fantastic. So
I just want to be left alone.
Jesus
to do my
Christ,
job.
dude.
Enjoy
What the hell, dude?
free time I have when I have it.
In any case, that's the first piece of the puzzle, and we're just supposed to collect the other 2, which are going to be a little bit more difficult. The one that I'm hoping to do today is going to be inside of the cracked Tusk Keep, which is it's just like a destroyed castle that is currently being manned by a few orcs. So there's really not really a lot of lore there. So I'm just gonna hopefully just talk through it. But it's interesting because according to that particular origin story, which is perpetrated by Vivek, which is kind of, I mean, it's a big guy. Like, that's not a guy that's gonna lie to you necessarily, right? It's what's interesting about it is that the fact that he was born on this kind of like altered dimension of Nirn, and if you basically subscribe to the idea that Nirn is indeed a Daedric realm, which, I mean, I don't think you necessarily have to subscribe to that idea, mainly because it's perpetuated by Mehrunes Dagon, who is a Daedric lord of destruction and chaos and, you know, and change. It's not, you don't necessarily have to believe that, right? He might be lying to us, but in any case, if you do subscribe to that particular thought process, then it can be very easily, you can reach the deduction, which in this case would be the correct deduction, that this world might indeed be a Daedric realm of Mehrunes Dagon, you know, and you can do some mental gymnastics there to kind of figure out that it would make sense for Mehrunes Dagon to essentially rule this place. Like, I don't think that it would be too difficult to kind of reach that conclusion, though. You could probably make an argument either way, but yeah. Let's go ahead and just quickly kill this guys. What's interesting is that, there's a lot interesting about it. I keep saying that what's interesting, ... but like, there's all of this is just pretty crazy, but really interesting to me. The fact that, Mehrunes Dagon, when he's invading, you know, Nirn during Elder Scrolls Oblivion, he never saw his invasion. And this is, of course, according to Mankar Camoran, of course, his lackey, but he says that Mehrunes Dagon never really saw his invasion of Tamriel as an invasion. Like, he never saw this as like a place that was owned by somebody else and that he was usurping, that he was conquering. Instead, he always saw himself as trying to obtain his legacy, his fate. Like, this is where he belonged. This is him. This is himself by right. Like, this is his place, right? And that's essentially where that thought process comes from. He literally comes from Lake, which is supposed to be Nirn in this alternate reality, and that this is indeed a Daedric realm, so this place belongs to the Daedra, and that's what the Daedra are all in their own ways always like conspiring in order to get this place, because it is indeed their belonging. Before I go in, though, I just wanted to show you guys something really cool. Get some ants. It's a very rare model that you can find in only like a few very specific locations of the game, but this is one of those locations, of course, where you can find one of these trunks and ants. This is not something that you can really see in any other trunk. And there's, I mean, of course, these trunks, you can find them everywhere, scattered all over Skyrim, but the ants are actually very, very rare. I believe there might only be like 10 places where you can see this, I think. It's kind of cool. Doesn't do anything, but I just wanted to show it. Because that's what we do here. Is trying to show all the crazy shenanigans that this game has to offer.
Is someone there?
I am here. You might have noticed that after we've been fighting for the last couple of episodes, we've been getting a lot of light armor levels That is because we do have a couple of light armor pieces. You will notice that our hands, our gloves, and our boots are pieces of the Dark Brotherhood set. We actually want to remove those. I want to quick save real quick because this guy's going to be a nightmare. This is where we're going to finally trade those. I'm going to steal this guy's gloves and boots so we can have a pure heavy armored build with this guy, because we've been getting hit pretty hard lately. You would also notice that I bought a lot of healing potions this time, so I am prepared at least for a few episodes. Alright, let's go ahead and very quickly fix our stuff here. We're gonna use Mark for Death. But yeah, much like there you go. That's what I was gonna say. Much like the Draugr Death Lords, this guy will basically like hit 80% of my HP with just a single hit. So that's why I've been pretty careful lately, because I'm getting just completely wrecked. All of these prep. Alright. No, he turns to me. Yeah! Okay, run. What the hell? Okay, I have no idea what the hell that was. Oh god. Oh, come on! Oh, really? I was basically full HP, though. Oh my god. That is crazy. What if I summon... Do I still have the... Can I Wabajag? I don't want to Wabajag him. I don't have the Sanguine Rose. Damn, dude. Damn. Alright, well, the lore is gonna have to wait, guys. Oh, God, no. We're gonna have to wait a little bit. Shouts, Mark for Death, active. We're just gonna go ahead and, Magicka. No, I did Oak Flesh again. Give us a level. Do this. I just... No! Come... Okay. Alright, you know what? Oh, my...
You want the first.
Come on. Focus, guys. Yes! My god, this guy. Jesus. Alright, I'm gonna take the boots, I'm gonna take the gloves, and use those so I can take out this ones. Boop, boop. Those actually look really dope. The Nordic, I believe this is from Dragonborn, the DLC. It looks so good. So good. Alright, let's keep going. So yeah, I don't know, there's just a lot about Mehrunes Dagon that is just straight up fascinating. The type of lore that you really don't get to hear about in many of the many lore videos, I would say. It doesn't get talked that often. But it's fascinating. We're gonna talk a little bit more about Mehrunes Dagon on the next episode, because I'm gonna be basically ending the episode like right here as we get the second piece of the razor. Not really gonna delve in here too much, but yeah, I haven't been answering too many questions lately, just because this past couple of episodes have been just packed with lore and stuff. I just haven't really had the time. But what we're gonna be doing soon, though, after we finish Mehrunes Dagon, is I want to get there is a word wall of power that I unlocked here. I want to get that. I want to just kill more dragons so that I can get more souls. I also want to unlock the marked for death to the max. I want to get the 3 words of power for that one. Because as you can see, I'm having some difficulties with some of the stronger minions. So if we can just get something to help us out there, I think that would be great. But that's gonna be it for this episode, guys. Like I said, next episode I'm gonna see if I can answer at least a few questions, and then we can talk a little bit more about Mehrunes Dagon as as a Daedric Lord. No more conspiracy theories, no more crazy origin myths. We're just going to talk a little bit about the Deadlands and about him. And it's going to be fun. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to comment and like. Leave me a question. I'll try and see if I can find something to answer. And if you haven't already, make sure to go over to patreon.com/MrRhexx. Leave me $1, just anything that you might be able to give me. It will be greatly appreciated so that I can continue doing these videos, so I can continue working on this channel. Anything you can. It's awesome, and I would love it. I would love you for it. Anyways, see you all next time. Bye-bye.